Excuse me, sister. Can we just put our hands together for Shannon from the group?
Hi everyone, my name is Shannon and I'm from Singapore and I'm from the vibrant group of Judah 6. Today I'm here to share about God's faithfulness and work in my life the past 6 months. Our church has been preaching on the sermon series of To the Shadows and Back, and today I'm going to share my personal experience of being to the shadows and back. And this is my personal experience of as God led me through a season in my life. In 2007, while praying for the year of 2008, God led me to the verses in Romans 5. Suffering produces perseverance, perseverance character, and character hope. Over the past 6 months, I've been experiencing a season of dryness. And since accepting Christ in 2007, God did take me through different seasons of dryness, but never one was as long as and as challenging as the past 6 months. Before graduating in July last year, I was offered a full-time job as a research assistant in UQ. Back then, after much prayers and God's direction, I knew it was the path that God has chosen for me to continue serving Him in Brisbane. As I walked into this open door, different things began to unfold in the journey. God began molding my faith and aligning my heart with Him. When I first accepted Christ, God had placed some very close brothers and sisters in my life that constantly helped me to grow in God. We often had endless godly conversations that went past midnight, and with them, my spiritual walk grew really quickly. The hard part began when God decided it was time to take these people away from Brisbane for the greater good of His kingdom. As God handpicked these people out of my life, I lost my frequent access to these people, and as time passed, I realized my relationship with God started to deteriorate. I would do my daily quiet time as a routine without truly fellowshipping with God to hear His voice and guidance. Instead of turning to God, I thought I should begin to rely a little bit more on my shepherd. Maybe try talking to her more nights and hopefully be encouraged. However, God has His plan, and my shepherd announced that she was going to move on to the working adult group. At that time, I totally broke down and asked God why He was doing such a thing in my life. I questioned Him endlessly and was not willing to accept the answers that He returned. I then began to do my quiet time and read the Bible with a prideful and unforgiving attitude. To make things worse, I had to adapt to the life of a working adult, and in my ministries, I was given more responsibilities, which I had lost the motivation to perform. But I kept pressing on without wanting to disappoint my leaders. All this and all began to cause me physical and spiritual burnout. I also had difficulty adapting to the full-time working environment, and when I was not 2 months into my job, my supervisor announced that he was going to close the lab and I had to find a new job. With the deterioration of my relationship with God and the chaos in my life, I began to question if this was truly God's will for me to remain in Brisbane. I started to doubt and forget all the confirmations and answers God has once given me before, and the blessings that He had led me to. In the midst of my burnout, I experienced spiritual oppression where I was unable to utter words of worship unto God. All this led me to thoughts of leaving church, and even to the extent of me deciding to walk out of a service one day during praise and worship. But thank God's sovereignty that He put me in the middle of the lecture theatre that day, and I couldn't squeeze past everybody. Sharing this to only one friend, and after much persuasion, I reluctantly agreed to go for the Touching Heaven prayer meeting extra. Throughout the prayer meeting, I could not sense God, and I felt really horrible. I even remember thinking that was the last time I would go for any prayer meeting. But as we were reaching the end, we prayed against spiritual warfare, and at the right after that moment, I was set free and I was finally able to worship and sing to God. God also opened my eyes to Him, helping me to realize that all this time, all I wanted to do was to spend time worshipping Him. Coming to repentance, I realized my mistake, where instead of choosing to seek Him wholeheartedly, I turned to the burdens and troubles I saw before me. Instead of laying them down at the feet of Jesus, I carried them and blamed Him for the problems. God also showed me that I had been having a people-centered faith, looking to men for spiritual growth and pleasing my leaders in my ministry. All this dawned on me, and God began to realign my character with Him and succumb me to humility to serve Him again. It wasn't an overnight journey, nor was it an easy journey. It took me many months of praying against pride that I eventually saw a change in my heart. I would say that sums up another season of my life that God had ordained and sustained me throughout. After I learned the lesson God wanted to impart to me, He blessed me back more with where I began. God has turned my job loss into a blessing in disguise, and I have just been offered a new job with a higher salary and a 3-year contract. He also gave me a holy discontent that convicted me that pride should never cost me God's work. The greatest blessing of all this is that God taught me a valuable lesson that molded and refined my heart, and it will be a point in my walk with Him that I will never forget. So even as I come to the end of my sharing, I just want to encourage different ones of you who may be going through this season of dryness. Know that God is with you, and He's molding and refining your heart, that you see that He is our true shepherd. The season you're going through is going to pass by, and when we look back, we'll thank God for bringing us to and through this valuable lesson, because God loves us too much to let us remain who and where we are. So I just want to end this with a Bible verse that God has placed greatly upon my heart, and it's in Psalms 23 verse 1 that says that the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. Thank you.